Hi, and welcome to this video on Windows Server administration. So in this video we're going to look at what the Windows Server is like. We are going to look at Server Manager, Active Directory, Domain Controllers, Group Policy, and Windows Security. So let's get started. So generally Windows servers are created by Microsoft. They are the developers of those servers, and it's a very popular server together with Linux, and it's used in a lot of companies all over the world. It runs a lot of applications. It has got its own native applications it comes with, and you can also install your own applications on it. So it's just like a Windows 10 machine, but it is made for serving a lot of clients, and it acts as a server. So it's meant for large scale applications, whereas your laptop is just meant to serve you alone. You also find that the Windows server is recommended by a lot of application developers who are code vendors at times, and they use it to develop their own applications and to run them and deploy them in customer environments. So currently the latest version of Windows Server is Windows Server 2019, but Windows Server 2012 is still widely used. So you find that there's Windows Server 2012, 2016, now we're at 2019, but Windows Server 2012 is still very much popular, as it was a well-developed server. So inside the Windows Server, when you start the Windows Server, you find something called the Server Manager. Now basically a Server Manager is a small application that comes with every Windows Server, and it's a one-stop place for you to manage all your server configurations, the key ones. For example, you can manage things like, if you go under local server here, just a moment. So if you go under local server, you find things like server name, the domain, the firewall, remote connections, whether you're configuring remote desktop or not, where you put your IP address on firewall, whether to turn it on or off, and the like. You'll also find that you get alerts. For example, if you look on the screenshot, you'll find that you get events, you get services. So you get alerts and notifications on whatever is happening on your system. Then you can also initiate the installation of roles and features. We'll get back to this one in the next slide. But basically the Server Manager in a Windows server is the central management place for your server one, but you can also manage many other servers within it. So you find that in this instance, this could actually be, if you check here where it's written servers total, it's 2. So this Server Manager is actually managing the local server as well as another server. So you can actually manage a lot of servers there. On top of that, you can manage a lot of features that have been stored on the server on this, or stored on the servers that are being managed. So there could be 2, 7, or as many as you can take. And all those features installed on those servers will come here, and you can click on one and you can start working on it. Now, as I said before, there are things called roles and features. So if you want to install a role or a feature, you go under manage, then you get a part which says install roles and features. So when you click on install roles and features, you will get to windows like this. So firstly you get to the server role feature. Now basically a role is a service that a server is going to provide to users or to other services. So you'll find that a role is something that is delivered by the server to another computer or to the people, and these are things like your DNS records, your DHCP, your Active Directory, your file shares, your FTP, and the like. So anything that is being a service that is being provided by the server to you as the server is installed as a role on the machine. So you find that here on this screenshot, you can see that, as I was saying, the roles could be DHCP, DNS server, fax. So if you want to install or use that server as a DNS server, you just tick this box and then you click next and you go to the next page. When you click next, now you get to this features page. Basically a feature now is a software that is required by the server in order for it to do its work very well. So a feature could be, let's say, a .NET Framework 3.5. So maybe there's an application that requires this. So on the features page, it will ask you to install that. Or if you need it for your own use, you can install a feature on your local machine. So a feature is basically something required by the server for it to be able to do its main work, which could be whatever has been installed as a role. So that's what roles and features are. And roles and features come preset in the server. So when they are preset, it means when you tick on the box, those are then installed. So they are there in the setup files, but they are not installed. Therefore, they do not clog the application or make it heavy such that it becomes slow. However, there are some rows, especially some features, especially which are found only after you put an external disk. For example, when you're installing the .NET Framework 3.5, you will need to install the installation disk so that you can complete the installation of the .NET Framework 3.5. Now, when it comes to Windows servers as well, there are things called domains and domain controllers. So let's look at a domain first. So a domain does not just apply to Windows computers, but it can apply to any computer of any flavor, of any distribution. So basically, a domain is a bunch of networks or a network of computers and user accounts as well that belong to one organization. So on top of belonging to one organization, these machines are centrally managed. Now, for them to be able to be centrally managed, they need to be in a domain. So a domain is basically a group of computers and user accounts that are centrally managed by the domain administrators. So in a Windows server environment, or in a domain that has got Windows servers, we have servers that are called domain controllers. And these domain controllers, the responsibility that they have is to be the main coordinators of all the computers in a domain. So when an administrator is looking at managing the many computers in a domain, he uses the domain controller. So the domain controller is responsible for things like user management, policy management, security management as well, which are all look into that. So basically, how does the domain controller work? So the domain controller generally requires, the domain usually requires there to be two domain controllers for redundancy. On top of redundancy, you'll find that you can also have many domain controllers, and you can separate the functions that each one is actually doing. However, they still maintain a level of redundancy, but specializing in certain roles. So that's another key reason why you would need more than one domain controller. And also, a domain controller is very critical, so you need to make sure it has got backups and it is properly secured, because once an intruder gets access to your domain controller, then they can control your whole environment, and you can imagine what they can do to it. So generally, how does a domain controller work? So let's take this to be a network or a domain. In this domain, we have two computers. So these two computers are managed by the domain controller. So if a user wants to log into this computer, he or she will have to enter their credentials. Their credentials are validated by the domain controller via the Active Directory module, which we'll talk about. And then if they are found in that Active Directory module and they are actually found as being permitted to log in, then they are allowed access to log into this machine. And once they log in, the domain controller automatically applies all the security policies on this computer that are required by the administrators to make sure that it is safe. So we'll talk about group policy as well, where we define the policies that are supposed to apply to every computer and every user in an environment. So basically, that's how a domain controller would work. So it would make sure that not only are also when it comes to computers, the computers that are found in the domain should also be found registered in the domain controller. So a computer first has to join a domain, and if a computer is not in a domain, it is not allowed to access the network resources in a domain. So you'll find that if you come with your own machine onto some company networks, no matter how much you try to connect, you'll not be able to do anything until that computer is connected to the domain, not just to the network, but to the domain as well. So that's about domains and domain controllers as far as Windows servers are concerned. Then we have Active Directory. So Active Directory is basically the central user management role in a Windows domain. It is responsible for managing anything to do with users that are in the domain that is being configured. So with the Active Directory module, you can create and delete users. You can deal with account locking. For example, if account is logged due to some reasons, for example, entering wrong passwords, or if you want to actually disable that account as well as enable it, you can do it via the Active Directory module. Then it's also responsible for creating groups. So you may find that, for example, in this picture, we have got users, some are in the computers, we've got users here, some are in the marketing group, and some are in the finance group. So for you to be able to separate these users, that's where Active Directory comes, and you use security and distribution groups. So security groups could be used for giving permissions to users on various applications. So some applications would actually allow you to use Active Directory authentication to access them, and based on that, they can actually create security groups in the Active Directory, which will give varying permissions and access permissions to various levels of an application. Then distribution groups could be used for emails, where we say if you want to send an email to all the people in the marketing department, then we put all those people in the distribution group for marketing. And then when an email is being sent to marketing, they just enter the email address of that group, and everybody in that group gets that email. The Active Directory is also responsible for managing the computers in the computer accounts or the computer names in the domain. So all the computers that are in the domain should also be registered under the domain controllers. And as we have said before, the domain controller can also be used to give access as well as to define roles for various applications in the domain. Then we also have group policy. So with group policy, we are basically having a central place where we are managing all the policies, all the updates, and all the settings that have to be applied to a Windows domain. These settings will be applying to both computers and users. So as you can see in the screenshot, these are policies that apply to computers, and these are policies that apply to users. So if you choose a policy, then it will then cascade down to all the users that are going to be affected. It could be all users in the domain, or it could be users in a specific distribution group or in a specific security group within the domain. So a group policy allows you to just manage every computer or to send out policies and updates from just one place to all the machines or to a group of machines in an organization. So the group policy is managed by domain controller, and it pushes updates regularly. So it will push updates probably every 30 minutes to computers, or if there's need for you to actually update immediately, then you can actually run some commands to push the updates to all the computers instantaneously. So as you can see, some of the policies, there are so many policies that you can actually assign to your environment, and these are just but some of them, where if you want to turn off automatic learning for machines, you can actually do it here, and all of them will no longer get it. If you want to stop displaying the lock screen, then you can actually enable or disable it here, so that people do not see the lock screen. You can also force a specific start background. So when people are on the start page, instead of seeing a background of their choice, you can actually specify the background that you want them to see, And then you can also apply the default account picture to all users. So instead of users putting their own pictures on their computers, you can actually define the exact picture that they can find. So these are some of the settings. Some of them could do with things like account lockouts, password changing, how frequently should a person change passwords, how frequently should the computer be updated, which websites can people access, which proxy can they also access. There are so many settings that you can actually put, and these settings are managed via the group policy settings. Then lastly, we just want to talk about licensing and support. So you find that the Windows servers come in two flavors. There's the standard Windows server, and then there's the data center Windows server. So the standard comes in two flavors as well. It also comes in the core flavor, where it's just a command line interface. So you install it just as a command line. It will not give you a graphical user interface. And then there's also the graphical user interface version, which allows you to see the graphical user interface. This also applies to both the data center version as well, that it also has a core and it also has a GUI version. But the key difference between the standard and the data center versions is that the data center version can actually act as an hypervisor. So it can be used as the platform for Hyper-V, upon which you can now install many other servers that include both Windows and Linux servers. So you can actually install the standard version of Windows Server on the hypervisor that is running on the data center version. So you basically have two versions, and you need to know what you want to do. So if you are not going to use a server as a hypervisor, then do not install the data center version, but rather just install the standard version. So if you face challenges with your Windows servers, where do you get support, or where do you get help from? Generally, you can get support directly from Microsoft if you have subscribed for a support subscription with them, or you can also subscribe with Microsoft licensed partners in your country or in your region who can actually come and help you. So they may not be Microsoft itself, but these are people who have been trained and who have specialized in Microsoft to the extent that they know how to solve the problems that you have. Also, there are different and varying support packages that you could subscribe for. For example, you could have a support package that could give you support 24/7, or you could have one that would only give you support during working hours, or the support package could only be supporting you when you have challenges with your Active Directory, or when you have challenges with your emails, with your Exchange servers. But in this instance, if it's applying to your Windows server, it would actually be just to a specific row, or it could be to the whole server itself. So I hope this has given you an idea of what Windows servers are about and how they work, and you can use this information in your work. Thank you.